So after about 36 hours travelling in airports and planes and things, we then caught smaller and smaller planes and then a ferry, rainbow ferry across here to Seldovia. And we just saw Teleport on the hill as we came past. We've got all our supplies, go and see how Teleport fared and then get some sleep. Looks like she survived the winter pretty well. The tarps look like they held up great.
On the outside everything looks perfect, just the way we left it for the winter, but we'll see what the inside looks like.
Smell alright?
No, not too bad. A little bit damp, but...
This time we actually left this little window open to try and get a bit of ventilation through.
It might have done a good job. Well, it's a pretty big mess down below, but I'm pretty sure that's the way we left it for the winter anyway. But apart from that, everything's pretty good. I can't see any mould or any dampness yet, so looking good.
See how much water we got in the bilge. Oh, we do have a fair bit actually. It's quite deep actually. Wonder where all that came from. I guess just from condensation. So with all that water in the bilge, I wasn't really expecting that, because we drilled holes in the bottom of the keel so that hopefully all the water would drain out, and we hoped we'd come back to a completely dry boat, and then we were going to pour salt water in there so that salt water filled the kind of keel area, so when we glued it up, at least we'd have salt water in there which wouldn't rot so fast as fresh. So there's a lot of water in there and it hasn't drained out, so hopefully that hasn't done too much damage in the freeze and thaw cycles of winter. I would have actually thought the bilge pump would have pumped most of that water out, so I just tried to turn the bilge pump on then and it didn't seem to work. So now I'm worried that the batteries might be completely flat, which would be really bad. We left the wind turbine connected this time, hoping that it would keep things charged for us, but let's have a look. Oh, 13 volts, batteries are still good. That's a relief. Starter battery's on 3 volts, 3.5, so that's completely dead. Bilge pump goes off the starter battery, but we don't use a starter anymore because we just use hand start anyway, so that's all that battery ever used to do was the bilge pump. Weird. Engine still turns, which is good, it's not seized. So the holes have definitely been weeping stuff. So I've cleaned up these holes best I can. They're still weeping a bit of water, but now I'm just going to put in some of this kneaded epoxy putty stuff, squish it up, put it in there, seal it up, and then hopefully get some epoxy paint to really make sure they're waterproof again. Hopefully we can put in the water tomorrow. So we're trying to work out what we're going to do about this. It doesn't look like the boat wintered as well as we hoped it would. Various problems. I mean, we don't have time to cut it all out and try and re-glass that whole area, but I wonder why it even happened. Like if it's just the freeze-thaw of the wood that's damp. And wondering what's going to happen if we just put the boat back in the water, how quickly water will get in through there and if it'll spread anywhere. If we'll slowly sink, or if it'll just fill in as far as that cavity goes and then stop. Dunno. So I've got to mix up some epoxy paint to seal up that area where I put the epoxy putty in those little holes again. But these tins of paint are so rusted, I didn't get the lid off. So I've sanded it back, cleaned it all up with acetone. Now just putting some epoxy paint on the top just to seal it up. And hopefully that'll do us for another season. So what I decided to do was to sand back this whole area as far as I could see that little crack in the fiberglass go all the way back here. Sand it back and then put some epoxy paint in there and seal it all back up again. And now because we're going to go in the water, getting launched in about 2 hours time, and the epoxy, it's got to be at least I think 15 degrees for it to go off, and it's blatantly not. So we borrowed a heat gun from a friend, and we're now just sitting there heating this bit and then running around the other side and heating the other bit, the little holes we plugged down there, and then coming back to heat this bit, trying to get it at least vaguely sealed before we have to go and put it in the water. So remember last year where we snapped the tip of one of our blades on the wind turbine off? Well, Primus Wind Power very kindly sent us a whole new set of 3 brand new blades, so I'm just installing them now. They give you a whole new set of Allen keys and anti-corrosion paste and everything. Fantastic. So it'll be good. We'll get a bit more power back out of the wind. This Airbreeze wind turbine has been amazing for us for the whole journey. We've been getting so much free electricity to charge all of our batteries and all of our cameras and laptops, and so I'm sure the extra little bit of length on the blades should give us a bit more power. So we're going back in the water. The engine works, I tested that. Getting rid of the blocks and hoping it kind of balances there before I put the trailer back in. Launch it. Pretty easy, but it's still a bit nerve-wracking every time. Launching. Hope it floats. Well, looks like the engine's working. There's cooling water coming out the back. I guess we're good to go. We're going to tie up at the wharf.
We're afloat. It's awesome to be afloat. We've made the boat all homely. The heater's on. Nothing's leaking. Not much water in the bilge. Engine's working fine. Everything seems really good, which has put us in really high spirits.
Every time we wanted to check the battery voltage, we always used to have to go into the middle cockpit and lift up all the seats and get the multimeter out and hold the little things on the terminals, and we always want to know, because we use so much power, we need to know when we need to charge the batteries more. So finally, back in Australia, I bought a little digital voltmeter for like $15 and finally finished installing it and screwing it in there, and now whenever we look, we know exactly what the voltage is doing, and the alternator's working and all that kind of stuff. So great.
So I'm just going through all our chats. We're lending them to someone else who's doing the Northwest Passage this year, so I'm getting ready to send them all to her.
Pretty excited for this. It is a awesome toy speedboat. The idea is we'll put a GoPro camera on the front of it, either on the top or underneath the water, and then we should be able to drive it up to, either away from the boat to get cool footage of teleport, or up to animals, or close to the shore, or who knows. We're all about trying to find new creative ways to get different photos and videos, so always a good excuse to buy a new toy as well. I'm up at the top of the mast. I've just put the wind direction indicator and the wind speed meter and things like that back on, and now we're going to go out for our first little test sail. We've got some friends coming down to join us, and then we've got some musicians to come on board, and we're going to go out and have a bit of a jam out sailing. It should be great.
I can't get enough of that girl in extra tough.
Seldovia has about 20-foot tides. It's incredible to watch it go up and down so much. So we set up a camera to take time-lapse photos of it and put it into a little video, and it's pretty epic to watch.
It's my 31st birthday this morning. So we finally left Seldovia.
Yeah, it was good to leave knowing that we'll be back in only about 4 or 5 weeks.
It was lovely actually. The whole weekend there was the Summer Solstice Music Festival, which was also my birthday, so that was excellent. They had a lot of the artists come out on board, and we went for little day sails with them, and they played music, and
we cut Chris's birthday cake, and we had 14 people on board.
1, 2, ready!
It was pretty
so much fun.
Yeah, a lot of fun. But yeah, it's good to be off again.
But yep, and we're off, and we'll see what comes up next.